Well, welcome to the University of Edinburgh's Playfair Library.
Thank you.
We're here to talk about the exhibition you've just installed right next door at Talbot Rice Gallery. Brings together Drama 1882 and The Secrets of Kabbalah from the Cabaret Crusades series, along with lots of your marionettes, statics, tarmac works, drawings, and wood relief, and a couple of selections from the university's heritage collections. It's a very full show. So I wanted to start with Drama 1882. What is it about this specific moment in the history of Egypt that felt so full of potential for you to explore in this new artwork?
Okay, the idea about making this work is also connected with the participation in Venice Biennale. I received the invitation very late, almost 8 months before the opening of Venice Biennale, and I had to make a decision whether to accept this invitation or not. Would it make sense to present the country, because I was already after the revolution. I decided really not to work at all, not even to exhibit in Egypt at all. But anyway, after a lot of discussions, also with the Ministry of Culture in Egypt, I said I will participate under the condition that they give me the full control over the pavilion. They don't interfere at all. They don't really censor the work. They don't even see the work until the opening of Venice Biennale, and they accepted, which is really, I think, was really good step. So I felt that I really need to make something has to do with the big changes that happened in the modern history in Egypt. And Egypt, the modern history in Egypt means also the modern history in the Middle East. One of these big changes, of course, is the British colony that happened in Egypt. 1882 is the beginning of the British colony. That's really happening with a way I did not want to do it this way. It just happened because of the history. It was almost mirroring what is happening in Gaza during this time. And when I did it, I didn't really want to talk about Gaza at all, but history has a lot of elements that it doesn't have to be repeating itself in history, but it gives us the causes. What happened, what is happening today has a reason of something happened 1,000 years ago, like what we see in the Crusades, for example. So I was really fascinated by having 3 moments in history. This is the first one of them, which is 1882. And also the story that led into this occupation is something looks like a play, which is a fight that is happening in the streets of Alexandria that led the British army to say that we must protect our allies, our subjects in Egypt, including the Maltese, for example. And within 1 month, they started to bombard Alexandria, then they started to enter and to see that this colony that lasted for 73 years. And I think for me, this tells a lot about history, because part of it looks like a play. And that's why also I decided to translate it into a play, filmed.
أعلن إليكم اليوم بعد قرار الخديو بعزلنا انضمامه إلى جانب الإنجليز، ونحن لن نسلم البلد وفيها ذو روح يتنفس.
Colonel Urabi, who they were clearly intimidated by, frightened of his power, of his popularity, of how much the people loved him. His dream was for Egypt for the Egyptians. Do you think that without the foreign interference, his dream would have been realized?
Well, I mean, what we see in the film here, unfortunately, that he lost. The thing here about this film, that it's not showing you a victory that happened. In fact, it was a failure. And it's a reminding for us of the last revolution. Also, it was a failure also. So
I wanted to ask you about that actually, because there's such a feeling of hope and of sadness that
yes,
infuses all of Drama 1882. You know, when the bodies of the dead are carried away through the rubble after the bombardment of Alexandria, the lament and the final scene as Arabi's evicted from Cairo. I just felt these feelings of hope and sadness, they feel quite close to you as an artist around the idea of who Colonel Arabi is. And do you think that this could be connected with your experience of the Arab Spring? You were in Alexandria at that time, I remember. And do you think that you're so connected to those ideas because of your personal experience?
yes, of course, because also we had big hope of change and this idea about democracy, and we had a lot of dreams, and of course it all disappeared. And yeah, clearly it was disappearing in all over the Arab countries. So we've seen it already.
In general, why do you choose to look back in history to help us understand the present?
I prefer not to be a reactionary artist. Like if something happens today, I go talk about what is happening today because it's changeable. I believe I prefer a lot to talk about an event that happened 1,000 years ago, for example, because for me this history that it's written is already, I see it from as a human creation. So it's changing, and when I try to look at it from this point of view, that is human creation, I think I feel it's like I'm more like a translator for this history, not that I'm someone knowing where the truth is. It's just a way to analyze where we are now. How did we make this mistake one day? How did we decide even to fake history? It gives us more opportunity to analyze it.
To me, staging it here, presenting it here, it just feels like such a necessary encounter because it really does confront the history of the British Empire and to confront our own understanding and exposure to these histories that have had such global impact. What does it mean to you to present Drama 1882 in the UK, particularly when the British have had such a significant role in that story?
It's really important. I'm very happy to be showing here also and to be connected to the academy. I think this is really important for me in general. And I'm always happy with this connection that it's going, sometimes like with my work, for example, with Cabaret Crusades, for example, I produced 3 parts of Cabaret Crusades. One in Italy, one in Germany, one in France. These are the 3 major forces behind the Crusades. And they were also the producers, which is really fantastic. So to me, this way is not only, of course, it's for me, it's a way to try to work with the craft and the artisans and how to shift ceramic that has a certain type of history, like that it's really Christian, to make santons that they put inside the churches, and how to work with this very old traditional way of making ceramic to build marionettes that tells the history of the Crusades, but from the Arab point of view. All these types of shifts are really important to make the films itself in different places in different countries. but also the idea that we are open today about like talking about our mistakes. It's really amazing. Yeah.
I was thinking about this a lot actually in relation to scenography, because the scenography of your film sets is just so exquisite, but so too is the scenography of your installations. So if you're sat in Drama 1882, you're in a scene, you're in a set, you're sat at a table, you feel like maybe you're in this theatre in Alexandria. At the beginning, the curtains open in front of you, across the screen, continued all around you. And I really started feeling there was an idea of being implicated in the film. As a spectator, fourth wall is gone, you're part of this situation, but you're also implicated in this history. And I feel like this is a very powerful thing for an artist to do, because the protagonists on that stage are our ancestors. I wanted to ask you, what do you think of this idea of ancestral memory and ancestral responsibility? The idea that we are responsible for the deeds of our fathers, so to speak.
Most of the time, really, when I work with this history, I really try to, even not to look to myself as an Egyptian or as an Arab or Muslim, or I really try to see it from a different angle. I try to see it, again, from human point of view. Like, it's like power fight between, really, I don't want to say civilizations, but it's really, the history is just about a constant dream of evolving. And this constant dream of evolving is happening through the idea of going from one place to another, or changing one system to another, changing from a system of, even from communism to capitalism, for example, but from nomadism to agricultural society, from agricultural society to urbanism. All these types of changes that are happening with people, it's really running after this dream of evolving. And this is also part of the war, part of the speech by Pope Urban II, for example. The speech, the core of the speech is, you are my people, and they are not my people. You go from this place to this other place because you are fighting together here. And if you go to this other place, you will find better land, better weather, you will have more wealth. It's like that. And if you die in this trip, you will go to heaven.
Free ticket.
That's a Christian jihad, for example. So you go to this. So the church is not only giving the speech to people that allowing them to have this dream to go from one place to another, but also giving them the possibility to go to a higher level after death. And I think I see it from this point of view, whether it's Islam or Christianity or Judaism, it's the same type of mechanism that is happening because we want to evolve from one system to a higher system.
يا جنود الرب، إنها الحرب المقدسة من أجل استرداد مملكة الرها. أعدكم بمعونة سرمدية لكل من تطوع بهذا العمل المقدس. خذوا مني شارة الصليب، وفي الحال ستنالون الغفران على كل خطاياكم.
This is what gave rise to the idea of the Cabaret Crusades. And you were already making this actually when the Arab Spring occurred. Mm-hmm. But the subsequent two films, did the Arab Spring change the trajectory of the two films that came after?
Okay. I started without really knowing that this is happening.
No.
Again, it's like what happened in 1882. And then the revolution happened, and started to make sense what's happening. When I made, for example, the second part of Cabaret Crusades, that was premiered in Documenta 13, 2012. Part of this film was also focusing on a revolution that happened in Damascus during the Crusades time. And it was really, I didn't want to do it because it's reminding us of the Arab Spring, but it was really very, if you look at it, it's very parallel. So usually it's like, as I said, I don't want to be reactionary to anything. I want to just to try to analyze history through something happened really in the past, to try to understand why the present is like this.
When you first started making the Cabaret Crusades, did you always know you wanted to use marionettes?
I was not sure in the beginning. I was not 100% sure. I was sure when I started to read more about the speech by Pope Urban II. I was always feeling this idea of manipulation, and also the idea that there is always this drive of someone, and I'm not talking about only religious drive, but even the idea that they have the will to go into a war, for example, to try to convince the Crusaders to go from Venice and to attack Zara, which is a Christian city. And they managed to find an excuse for this because they needed some money to continue the Crusades. So it was, for them, it was okay to do that. And after they attacked Zara, they were supposed to go to Alexandria, but also they had to stay because of the winter, and they lost the food and the money, and so they started to find another also idea is to attack Constantinople, which is also the heart of the Byzantine Christian Church. So that is the Fourth Crusades. That it was really like something very weird. It was basically between the Catholic Church attacking the Orthodox Church. And when you look at it from this point of view, this is like, you try to understand where is the original speech by Pope Urban II, that we are doing all of this to free the land of Jesus from Muslims. Yeah.
So the Fourth Crusade, or the film, The Secrets of Kabbalah, ends with sectarian division, Christians attacking Christians, but also begins with a period of time 400 years before the beginning of the Crusades, in which you go back and you show us another sectarian division, but this time within the Muslim world.
Sunnah and Shia, yes.
Yeah. Can you explain what happens in that? I think of it as a preface to the film in a way, that this time that we jump back in history.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was very important to try to, in the third part, to try to make sort of a different type of analysis, and to focus more on the idea of this separation that it's happening in Islam, and also the separation that it's happening in Christianity, and to focus also on Hashashin, for example, Hassan Sabbah. Yes, this is also a Shia sect. That part of their missions is also to assassinate Sunnah leaders, that they were fighting also the Crusades. So and to try to see all these different relationships between leaders, and some of them even brothers that are killing each other in order for them to become closer to the Crusades, to protect themselves.
And again, this feeling of mournful sadness, the trickery, the manipulation, the betrayal.
This is also because I did not answer this. Sorry. So all these stories led into the idea of the use of marionettes. This type of manipulation that everyone is manipulated by something. Sometimes it's even manipulated by an idea. It doesn't have to be an institution. It doesn't have to be a religious institution or a government or anything. But it came after that when I had the first idea of marionettes, I was really lucky to find an incredible historical collection of marionettes
In Torino.
in Torino, 200 years old collection. And with Pistoletto Foundation, they helped me to convince this place to give us all this amount of marionettes to make the first film, and to dress them and to change a lot of things. I mean, it was really incredible work to happen with this historical marionettes. So we made the first film. And the challenge for me was how to make the second part and the third part, and from which material, which type of marionettes, and everything started to make sense also with the story. So the second part became ceramic, as I said, because it's connected to the Santons, that already part of the Christian artisan tradition, but also connected to the idea of human beings that are made out of clay, that is already exists in Islam. And I like a lot these different shifts until we reached the last part, the secrets of Karbala. And again, I decided to make new set of marionettes, but it was also very important to try to connect it with Venice. The Venetians were behind the Fourth Crusades that I was speaking about now. So that when it came to the idea, okay, we need to make all the marionettes from Venetians, Murano glass, not only for this history, but of course also to enhance this idea of fragility.
And luminosity.
Yes, yes.
Something you've explained before is also that Venice has long had a tradition of glass blowing, glass making, but it was very much enriched by the spoils of the Crusades with the technology, technique, materiality brought back from the Arab world.
Yes.
It's almost like making the form of the storytellers in the material meaning that was taken from those. The marionettes are radiantly beautiful, but they're also a real extraordinary technical achievement, and the mind does really boggle to imagine the day in which you said, let's make marionettes from Murano glass. So we have 30 on display here. How many did you actually make for the production?
I think for the film I made almost 250.
And a lot of them play multiple characters.
They play multiple characters. Some of them also are static. They don't really move. I think we made almost like 100 static ones. But also because for this third film, I created a system for the scenography, which is a bit different. I created 3 rings moving with remote control, and they can move in different speeds, different directions. And that came with the idea also about this medieval time when all the thoughts about the human beings are the center of the universe. So most of the scenes we find that the 2 characters are in the middle of this big scenography, and there are many other things just turning around this center.
the research that you undertook for this work drew on original Arabic sources from the time, who are said to have sort of observed that everything seemed to be happening everywhere all at once, which was something that these rotating disc stage really helped to create. What else did you take from the Amin Malouf book that was so important to your thinking?
I think main thing I took from Amin Malouf is the timeline, the smart way of making this timeline. Because this is really complicated. If I'm not a historian, and to throw myself to write this history in a way that makes sense, he managed to make his book not only a historical book, but it's also a literature. It makes sense. You can flow with the history, with the time, and I think that was a very important guide for me. But to build the real script for people, I had to go the original sources. Osama ibn Munqidh, Ibn Kathir, Ibn al-Athir, Ibn al-Qalansi, all these names that he also used for his sources. So that was also my source. And to be honest, yes, it was a really difficult research, but it was not as difficult as trying to, for example, to work with the Gulf history today, for example. This is a project that I'm working on now anyway. But because the amount of sources, the Arab sources that we have are not that many, that left are not that many. So when you say, I would like to work with the Arab sources, yes, there are a lot, but still doable. You still can go through them and you can find the events.
There's a commentary on the barbarism that was faced with the avalanche of the Christian Crusaders coming into the Arab world that you can feel in the films. There's blood, there's gore, there are dogs. This, I remember you telling me, was something that you encountered in those Arab sources that was quite startling for you.
Yeah. No, so of course it's the Arab sources are, it's just like the idea, the difference between how the victory is presented from the European point of view, and from when you just write the same massacre from the Arab point of view. It's really, really different.
When you were talking about the speech of Pope Urban II, and how much it's spread across Europe, also transmitted by Peter
the
Hermit, do you think that our ability to convey messages and trust in information is in any better a place now with all of our technological advancement?
To me, even to read that this speech were like possible to spread all over Europe within few months, that's for me was like really incredibly surprising. I couldn't.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, exactly. And not only to be spreading through all over Europe, but also people are convinced enough to walk to Constantinople. And with these waves, that the first wave, we read that half of the first wave died because they were extremely poor, they didn't have food, not even horses, so they were just like, going to this with their belief.
Religious fervor.
Religious, yes. So, but it's exactly how this speech, like, that was that powerful to the degree that people really.
And today in our world, do you think that one person can still ignite the same fervor or create the same amount of misinformation?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the media, the power of media is incredible, as we can see. I mean, it's so difficult because also we say that today in the age of internet, that we have a lot of sources, so it's easier for us to know the truth, but actually it's not also not true. We have tons of information and we don't know which one is real, which one is not. It's really maybe much more complicated. And yeah, and who has the power also to give us the news? And we don't know.
I just wanted to mention also the flags that we have in the gallery upstairs. They're made of tarmac,
Yes.
sandpaper, pierced with wire.
Yes.
They feel kind of cruel. Can you tell us about the making of these flags?
Yeah, I was trying to use material that is connected also to modern life, and that's also and connecting us also to oil and the source of energy that we have today. The discovery of oil, for example, we mentioned this in the first part of Cabaret Crusades. They didn't know what is it in Iraq during this time. They just knew that they were describing sometimes that there is some black, thick liquid that is coming out of earth. But how to connect between this and what is happening 1,000 years ago and what is happening today, for example, this contemporary fight.
Yeah. While the geopolitics of our world are, floating into our thought processes as we experience your films, it is undoubtedly the archness of them, the formal qualities that draw us in, that they are so spectacularly unique, so full of your voice, the characteristic mark making, the bent towards surrealism, the strangeness of so many of the forms, the color, angle, shape, texture, luminosity. And I really viscerally remember you saying to me during our collaboration, Tessa, it is really like painting, all of it. Can you please share with us what you mean by that?
The first thing I studied is painting. I'm a painter originally, so that's my bachelor. And for like 5 years, that was like really my main focus on painting. Okay, of course, also I tried to develop a lot different mediums and installations and films and music and many things, but still painting is part of the first thing I started in my early career. So for me, this whole film was a try to make several moving painting. Yeah. And also maybe this is, I always make my own music myself. I compose all my music, and this time was the first time that I decided to make the whole 45 minutes completely one musical piece. Even in Cabaret Crusades, we see that there are many songs, but in between you don't really have any music. So it's just like different rhythm.
And spoken word. In classical Arabic, what is it that you what is it that you so love
It's very
about
musical.
this
I
language?
love classical Arabic, and it's really, I studied classical Arabic also when I was very young, so I know it very well. And Arabic is my first language. So I like a lot to work with it. And I like also, especially of course with Cabaret Crusades, it was the idea of how to present this history from the Arab point of view. So it was very important to make it in classical Arabic. But in general, I find that I'm more close to it. And also when I compose this very difficult classical text that doesn't have a rhyme even, I know how to compose it, even if it doesn't have rhyme. So I think it's things are leading. And for me, always, all these elements, nothing is primary and something else is secondary. They're all primary. Everything has the same level. So when I make the script, or make the music, or make the costumes, the scenography, I feel that everything is presenting a role that you cannot remove. And I try a lot in this. As you can see, for example, in Drama 1882, that music is not a background, it's not an atmosphere. Music is the film. And the movement of the characters is not a decoration, it is also the expression. You cannot remove it from the political discourse.
Exactly. When you were talking earlier about evolution within politics, I was reminded of this kind of rocking back and forth movement. A good example is when the Khedive confronts Urabi at the very beginning. But I also felt a strong sense of destabilization in that gesture. I think it's quite an interesting thing to think about within your work, because you're proposing that a lot of the information that we're receiving we should look at skeptically. We're watching Urabi be tricked and manipulated and betrayed all around him. And the movement of these figures back and forth, it really does start to look like a figure on a boat trying to find their sure footing, and almost give us the sense as well that the ground is not stable beneath our feet, and maybe beneath our perception of the world.
I think in Drama 1882, I learned a lot from working with marionettes. The idea of manipulation, the idea of the character that is not acting, we're not depending on the acting skills of the performer, but we are more depending on the movement, on the script, many things. So we see many of the characters in 1882 don't really give any expressions with their faces, but all the expressions that are happening with the choreography. When I was trying also to compose this choreography, by reading just the letters between the leaders, you feel this back and forth in the idea of dominancy. Which party is more dominant now, and then the other party is dominant now. And I think that was also a way to try to focus on this type of dialogue. It's the search of dominancy between these two parties. And also the idea of not manipulation, but you have always this sense in the public that they are hypnotized. So you feel that the groups are really moving in slow motion in one direction, or they are like all like moving in circles. So there is always this feeling that you're compressing time to present 1 year of events, but at the same time it's very slow motion. So it's like these two things always happening at the same time. It's like you're expecting, how can you make the events of 1 year in 45 minutes? It's happening with the film, but at the same time everything is slow. So they're like, this tension is really happening.
Yeah. And you have this oscillation, but as you're saying, a lot of circulation as well.
Yes.
And I was really struck by some of the female figures, the foreigners, I think, the foreigners, who are rotating, almost like a ballerina within a music box. And at this time, the music as well. It's very circular, a lot like that repetitive kind
Yes.
of round and round again, as though history is something that's going to repeat again and again and again. You write the music. You also perform the music sometimes. I understand you have a singing role in drama 1882.
I had to sing Khidewi. Sometimes, because in order for me to compose this whole thing, I need to, of course, to first of all to play it on a keyboard, and also I need to sing the 45 minutes completely. And then, of course, after that, after everything is really clear, I start to give it to other singers to play different roles. But they need to have a guide.
What are your musical influences for drama 1882 particularly?
I have no idea. The music is really something, for me, I always say that. I really don't see any differences between drawing or music or films. And to me, they're all mediums, and I try not to be good in anything. I just try to, for me, is using different things, is allowing me and the viewer to analyze the same topic more, because each medium has its own limitation, that you cannot get certain impacts from a film, but you can get this different impact from the drawing. So it's something like, for me, it's more important to try to navigate and to work with many mediums.
Finally, we come to the selection of rare books from the University of Edinburgh's Islamic and Byzantine collections. What drew you to these two books in particular?
They remind me a lot of the system that I built all these rings, the moving rings with. This is exactly the way I was trying to work with the third part of Cabaret Crusades. Usually, as you can see here, even like you see like different circles here, and usually the main characters are in the middle, speaking or singing, and everything else is really going around this type of scenography that is again connected with the way of our image about ourselves as a center of universe. But also there is, for example, the other one.
Not sure if it's also illustrated.
Oh, it's not here?
No.
Okay, the one that also shows Mecca and Medina. It's really fascinating because I was always trying in the scenography, in the background, to use maps. I worked a lot with these flat maps. That it was made not during the Crusades, it was made after, mainly by someone called Nasuh Matrixi, the Bosnian geographer and artist and map planner, and he does many things. Calligrapher, yes. Even he makes guns. But his maps are incredible, because I think it's made with the same way that we see in the book. That part of the map, you see the trees and the types of houses. It's like really.
And the landscape rises up into the.
And the rises up. So then how you take this flat and turn it into something like semi 3D sort of. So yeah.
As you know well, this exhibition of yours is really central to our celebrations of the 50th anniversary of the founding of Talbot Rice Gallery in the University of Edinburgh. It was the dream of a Byzantine and Islamic art historian, David Talbot Rice, who really felt that students of art ought to be able to learn from the real thing. And he convinced the university at the time to give over some of the most beautiful central buildings of the old college that we're sitting in right now for art. And it continues today as a place where we can explore the arts of our time, but also create a platform for discussion about issues that can become so polarized in their oversimplification. And here we prefer to revel in the complexity of the histories and the context of the artists and artworks that we're presenting. You, I think, would have had a lot in common with David Talbot Rice. You founded an art academy studio in your own studio, Mass Alexandria, and you've now been appointed the artistic director of Fire Station. What have you learned in your adventures and experiences with Mass Alexandria, and what might you hope to achieve at Fire Station?
From time to time, I like a lot to do something outside myself and my projects. And so I think it was important for me in Egypt to make a platform for education. I try not to teach myself, but I try to just invite people to teach. And of course, to guide the students and to try to discover talents and to try to develop it somehow. But most of the time, it's more like a platform, inviting people and presenting a new system that I think it can be a little bit more effective in art education. So I think this happened already in Alexandria within like 10 years, and it was successful. Now in Doha, at Fire Station is a little bit different because Doha is much bigger scale. And for me, it's more important because it's more regional. The dream is to try to expand this idea through the region. So it's bigger space, it has more facilities, and of course, I have now more connections with the professors, the artists, the curators, the philosophers that can come to Fire Station and to give the help to the students, because the idea is extremely simple. It's like instead of going to an academy that has permanent staff, actually we just depend and rely on the visiting artists and curators and philosophers and so on. And so we host the students for 1 year. They have their own studio, and they always have different people that give them their own experience. And at the same time, I try to collaborate with biennales, hopefully with Documenta, with big events, and try to make the students travel to these different events. I think it's very important for me to do this. Yeah.
The students come back here in September, and I cannot wait for them to see this exhibition. Obviously, in Edinburgh College of Art, we have students of art, also filmmaking, fashion, students in textiles. Imagine them seeing the miniature knitted chainmail on those marionettes, or the lace that I understand you were sometimes donated from some of the fine lace houses around Venice, or from some of the citizens of Venice were giving ancient lace and textiles and fabrics to you and to the colleagues that you were working with, the silk. And we also have beautiful glass facilities, so I know there's going to be quite a lot of discussion about those marionettes and how you were possibly able to blow them in glass. So thank you, Wael. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with you, and you really have honoured us with this stunning exhibition, and really particularly also the premiere of Drama 1882 in the UK. It's so important for us all to see this artwork, to understand this history, but to understand it in such a visceral, implicated manner, which is your absolute brilliance as an artist. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be here. I'm very happy also to be connected to this academic institution. I feel it's really, as I said, it's very important to try to connect art to academy. So what is happening for me here is extremely important. It means a lot. Thank you.